Today we're diving into a problem that, let's be honest, is practically a feature of the modern workplace, burnout. But we're going to look at it through a really fascinating lens, ancient Vedic principles that are thousands of years old, but feel like they were designed for the pressures we're all under right now. You know the feeling, right? You're completely fried, totally overwhelmed, and someone says, oh, you should just take a vacation, or have you tried this new meditation app? And while, yeah, those things can give you a little bit of a breather, they just feel so superficial, kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a really deep wound. Well, the source material for this whole explainer argues that feeling is spot on. These quick fixes just don't get to the real root of the problem.
So what is that root cause then? Well, to really get it, we have to kind of reframe what we think burnout even is. It's not just being tired. It's a sign that we've become disconnected from something absolutely essential inside of us.
See, from a Vedic point of view, burnout isn't some newfangled corporate problem. It's a deep disconnection from two really important things. First, from prana. You can think of that as your fundamental life force, your core vitality. And second, from dharma, which is your own personal sense of purpose, your path. So when you feel totally drained of energy and completely lost, you're basically running a deficit in both.
Now, what's so cool about this is that the source of these ideas, the Vedic scriptures, they're not just some ancient spiritual texts. As this quote from our source points out, you can actually read them as incredibly practical guidebooks, manuals for human psychology and energy management that are almost perfectly suited for the stuff we deal with every single day.
Okay, so let's get into the first principle. This one is all about building a powerful mental tool. Think of it as a cognitive shield that protects you from the single biggest thing that causes modern exhaustion.
This principle is called Nishkama Karma. It comes from the Bhagavad Gita, and it basically means action without being attached to the results. Now, I know what you might be thinking, especially in a corporate setting. Doesn't that mean you don't care about doing a good job? Well, actually, it's the exact opposite. It's about shifting your focus away from the outcome, which you ultimately can't control, and onto the action itself, which you totally can. I mean, just think about it for a second. Where does so much of our stress come from? It's result anxiety. You know, that constant worrying, are we going to hit our quarterly target? Is the client going to like this? What if I mess up? Living in that state of constant worry is it's exhausting. And this slide just lays it out so perfectly. On one side, you've got that result anxiety. It leads to a fear of failure, all this wasted mental energy, and you end up tying your entire self-worth to a spreadsheet. Ugh. But on the other side, when you practice Nishkama Karma, you're free. You can actually get into that flow state, focus 100% on the quality of your work, and your mind is shielded from all that draining anxiety. You literally get your energy back for the task right in front of you. So, if that cognitive shield protects our mind, how do we handle our internal resources? Well, the next two principles are all about doing a kind of personal audit. First on your energy, and then on your purpose.
The Vedic tradition has this really cool idea that our minds, and pretty much everything else, are made up of three fundamental qualities, or gunas. And if you can understand these, you've got the key to managing your energy all day long.
So here's how they actually show up in the 9 to 5. First, you've got rajas. That's that high-energy, ambitious hustle culture fuel. It's the passion that drives big projects, but it's a super high-burn fuel. If you stay in that mode too long, you will inevitably crash right into tamas. That's the feeling of inertia, the brain fog, the mindless scrolling on your phone after a long day. The goal, the sustainable sweet spot, is sattva. That's a state of clarity and balance, where you're productive but also calm, focused but also relaxed. The whole trick is to intentionally sprinkle sattvic activities into your day, like taking a quiet lunch break away from your screen or just a short walk, to balance out all that rajasic fire.
Now, the second part of this internal audit is about Sva-Dharma. Think of this as your personal duty, your unique nature, your true north. It's the kind of work that just feels natural to you, the stuff that actually energizes you instead of drains you.
And here is such a crucial point. Burnout is often just the friction you feel when your job is forcing you to act against your own nature, right? So if you're a really creative person stuck in a super rigid by-the-numbers role, that constant internal fight is going to drain you, no matter how many hours you work. When you align with your Sva-Dharma, the effort starts to feel, well, effortless.
So this brings us to the bigger picture, because it's not just about managing work, is it? It's about how you structure your entire life. This section gives us a kind of blueprint for a more sustainable, more balanced existence.
According to the Vedas, a sane and fulfilled life means balancing 4 legitimate goals. These are called the Purusharthas.
You can think of them as the 4 pillars that hold up a well-lived life.
So let's take a look at what they are. First is Dharma. That's our sense of duty, our ethical contribution to the world. Second is Artha, which is the pursuit of material prosperity and security. Totally valid. Third is Kama, which is all about enjoying life's pleasures, beauty, and relationships. And finally, Moksha, which is the pursuit of spiritual liberation, of some higher truth. The Vedic idea is that a healthy life needs all 4 of these to be nourished.
And here it is. Here's the modern problem in a nutshell. Burnout is what happens when Artha, our career, our pursuit of wealth, grows so big that it literally starts to cannibalize the entire pie. We might have prosperity, sure, but we have no time for pleasure, no connection to a higher purpose, and our sense of duty just feels like a heavy burden. True balance means intentionally carving out space for all 4.
Okay, so we've talked about the psychological software updates, but what about the biological hardware? Because burnout isn't just in your head, you feel it in your body. Chronic stress literally locks our nervous system into fight or flight. The Vedas offer a direct physical way to hit the override switch, through pranayama, which is conscious breathing, and dhyana, meditation.
And here's how this incredibly practical tool actually works in the moment. First, something triggers you. Let's say a really stressful email pops up. Your body instantly tenses up, right? The practice is to just notice that happening, and instead of immediately reacting, you consciously pause. You use your breath to create a little bit of space between that trigger and your response. And in that tiny moment of pause, you can manually shift your nervous system out of threat mode and back into safety mode. It's so simple, but it's a profoundly powerful way to intervene.
So what does this all add up to? Where do we go from here? Well, it's not about running away from the corporate world. It's about totally transforming your relationship to it. It's about walking a path we could maybe call the path of the corporate yogi.
See, when you start applying these principles, detaching from the results, managing your energy, aligning with your purpose, balancing your life, you transform your career. It stops being just a source of stress and a paycheck. It becomes a sadhana, a conscious spiritual practice for your own growth.
And I just love this final idea from the source material. It's such a powerful reframe. Your work environment, no matter how bland or boring it might seem, becomes a place for practice, for intention. Your cubicle becomes your temple.
So we're going to end with a question for you to take with you. Looking at those 4 pillars of a balanced life, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, which one has been neglected for you lately? Which one of those pillars are you going to intentionally make time to build, even just a little bit, this week? Answering that might just be the first real step away from burnout and toward a much more integrated life.